Miss Sheridan Oliver had gone with a friend with whom she was staying, Judith Butler, to help with the preparations for a children's party, which is to take place that same evening. Oh, hello there. So today we're looking at, what it was like to, to go to school in the 90s. And keep in mind, I was born in 92, so, when I did go to school, I was still, not that old, so I was in high school in the 90s, all that, I wasn't in high school until the 2000s, so, fair, I understand that. But honestly, I gotta look back at and think, there was a lot of things that, compared to the 90s, that, I could totally be wrong about this, that were a lot different as I would, the later school years I would go to. I remember, especially, from, the 90s to 2000, we had a thing called Carnegie Learning. Carnegie Learning was basically, where you would, have, you would be in the class, and then, you would, learn, okay, you're gonna, learn math questions and all that, and then, okay, take bunch of tests. I think it was, basically, prep for, as you get higher in the grade levels and all that stuff. I remember, one of my friends would always get, whenever we would do the test, he got, Carnegie Learning. It was always kind of, goofy, but I remember that. I miss that dude. He would, there was also moments, when, I can before, I was in, first grade, or I think second, sometimes I would, go to after-school programs, so sometimes we would have, remember, it was still, a thing, not everyone had a computer in the 90s, personal ones, all that, so, sometimes they would have, computer labs, where sometimes, we'd have, we'd play computer games and all, whether it was math games and all that stuff, and all that, you, especially, sometimes you would even have those in, music class, and, yeah, that was always a thing. You'd always have computer, class and all that, sometimes, I think I would play, what was it, it was, I one time would play, after school programs, I would play, a game, I think it was, a wagon game, where basically you are trying to go through the wilderness or something like that. There was always one game I remember that was basically it was a science fiction game where basically there was 3 characters and you're each trying to get an objective, and then basically at the end of the game, the guy who had crash landed on you on that planet, he got crash landed on that planet. And yeah, especially also in the 90s, I'll still be honest about this. One thing that was always still prevalent in the 90s still was bowling. Because, that was one thing that was, it's even prevalent today still, honestly. And yeah, it was still a thing. I mean, when isn't bowling a thing? It was just, I one time, when I was very young, I would always be made fun of, being called a shrimp. I wasn't very tall. I was, small kid. But one thing that did happen, I'll be honest, sometimes you would always have, the gym and PE. You'd always have, okay, climb this rope.
My turn! Rupert!
I climbed that all the way to the top and, all the way to the ceiling. And, everyone would just, and then, I think my parents said this. Because, remember, this was a long time ago. So, they had, someone say, come down there, little child. Come down, please. like someone would just like randomly like just like please get him to come down. Like say another one of the things that you'd always have in the 90s too was that you'd also have I think like especially for younger kids that you'd have like say I forget the name of it, but it was basically just like say a pizza company where you would basically come to your school and then you'd have the opportunities to sell deep dish pizzas, and you can like make money to have like whoever sold the most could have like a party of their class and all that. That was always a thing. Another thing that was always very prevalent in the 90s, or in the later in the 2000s as well, was Scholastic book sales.
Books bring us joy. Books bring us adventure.
Like, so sometimes they would come to your school, and if you had like a little bit of money, you could buy a book. And yeah, that was always a little bit fun, seeing like say, oh, this looks cool, And one thing they would always try to teach, get kids to reading was basically it was like say you would have like say learning like book reading quizzes, and basically like a book quiz, and then each book would have like same amount of points, and basically you would try to like say prove your reading skill by like say how many books you could read. It was like like thing that was always like, okay, guys, I want to see how well you can do this. Another thing that would also try to do too is especially like back in like in the 2000s and in the early 90s, late 90s, is they would always have like the African American history lessons as well. And yeah, that was always very prevalent. We'd always like watch Our Friend Martin.
Coming to video, Our Friend Martin, an exciting full-length animated adventure about 12-year-old Miles and his best friend Randy, who journey back through time and meet Martin Luther King Jr. during various stages of his life.
Whoa, Randy, this is major magic time. We're actually in the past.
Featuring an all-star cast, original music and songs, and actual historical footage of Dr. King.
I have a dream.
Our Friend Martin, an entertaining and inspiring tale for the whole family.
Which was like say a cartoon about like kids meeting Martin Luther King as a kid, then as a teenager, an adult. Yeah, I remember that cartoon too, man. There was like a lot of things that made school different in the 90s as well, and in the 2000s. I mean, especially like say when you go back to look around middle schools, those things are like like when you're walking through, you feel like I am a freaking giant. And I mean, yeah, it was always just like when you look back and feel like say this place is tiny, like you don't realize like say, oh, kids are small and all that. But honestly, like say, yeah, like schools in the 90s were a lot different. The learning was a lot different. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things that you just like think about, like whether it was like learning to use like the little keyboards in music class. Like, what was your favorite 90s like if you did class in the 90s, school in the 90s, what was one thing you remember? I'll see you later.